Okay, who am I speaking with today?
Scott.
And you're from where, Scott?
Burlington.
Okay, how long have you been in the 9/11 Truth movement,
I'm
Scott?
fairly new at it. About 3 months now as far as being active, but I've always had suspicions.
And what got you involved in this movement?
Well, I saw a film that intrigued me called 9/11 Mysteries. And it just seemed to validate a lot of the suspicions I had that there was something fishy about the whole thing. And then when I saw that, it just made total sense. Things just clicked into place. And so I started researching, and I've been doing that ever since, soaking up every bit of information I can about it. The more I learn, the more I believe it wasn't inside.
And you're here in Manhattan today on 9/11/08, okay? Participating with all these folks right here. All 9/11 Truth movement advocates. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Psyche, years ago. Now it's somehow it's there. Somehow that's something that
How's it going?
Okay, who am I speaking with?
My name is Rogelio Sanz. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised, Dominican by descent. Basically, I've been coming to these states since '03. I missed last year because I was out in Minnesota for a year, but I came back home.
And what got you involved in this movement?
The fact that since that day, September 11th, I lost people that day too, so I definitely sympathize with the families and whatnot of the fallen. But since that day, I knew that there was something that wasn't right about what was going on, for sure. So it took me a little bit, to kind of get into it. And then just before the summer of '03 was when the big one hit, when I came down to this rally and I found out so much about what was really going on, how we've had, these neocons basically lying to us straight to our faces, telling us that no, it was a bunch of guys, 3,000 miles away in a cave that did it. And meanwhile, the real terrorists are right here, and we appointed them to these, to these positions of power. We give them the right to tell us to shut up and not say anything. We're giving them the right to take away our constitutional freedoms, and I think it's ludicrous. I think it's ridiculous. The fact that after September 11th happened, they cordoned off the crime scene, took away the evidence, and said nothing to nobody. Didn't give anybody the chance. Not even FEMA. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, was even allowed to go into World Trade and discover what was really going on. That they could have found out that there were explosives in the building. Let's go back to Oklahoma City. They found explosives in there, but nobody knew about it, not even the mainstream press.
So you've done some research.
I've done plenty of research. You know what I mean? You talk about that. You talk about the Iran-Iraq-Contra set up by the CIA.
What
talk about all that stuff. It's ridiculous.
What CDs or books would you recommend for people to...
CDs, since I've been doing a lot of my research through YouTube and a lot of CDs, definitely recommend stuff like Zeitgeist. Really good documentary. Loose Change, if you haven't checked it, check out all of them because they give you as much information as you can. Go on YouTube, research stuff about 9/11 Inside Truth because they have a lot of information on YouTube as well. It's out there.
Any books or...
Any books? I haven't really read too many of the books, I'll be honest about that. But really, it's like, if you can go out there, you can find it out. I mean, the one book that I'm reading right now is Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. Okay. That book is awesome. Exactly.
Behold the Pale Horse.
Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper.
And how many of...
Basically.
How many of these events have you been to since '03?
I've been to these. I've been to everyone on 9/11, on this day of September 11th. I've been to a couple that they hold up at Union Square Park, where they talk about, troops out of Iraq, stop the Iraq War, stop the threat of war against Iran. I'm definitely for it because of the fact that it's like if they lied to us before, they used the same strategy to lie to us to try to get us to go into Iran. It's like, just put two and two together. That's all that's really all I can say, people, is put two and two together and realize what's really going on. They're lying to you every day. They're doing it through every form of media. They're doing it through the internet. Everywhere. It's everywhere. And literally, it's not just for the generation, for my generation. I don't speak for my generation alone. I speak for my little sister's generation, and I speak for the generations to come. Take the time, learn the truth, open up a book, read it, see what the government's really been about for the last 100 years. years, 100 years. Not even the last 10, 100 years that they've been holding stuff from you.
Okay.
Take the time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
No
it.
problem.
But when it comes to like weight loss and stuff like that,
They announced it again, and Bernard is going to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise and his company, they announced that the chip is the money. Track it down. Found one person. They're going to change.
Can I ask you a few questions?
sure. Here, get the back of my
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, what's your name?
Rod Lewis,
Rod, where are you from?
Newtown, Connecticut,
And how long have you been in the 9/11 Truth Movement?
since 2004.
Okay, and what got you involved?
I was in town for the Republican National Convention. I saw some people with a big banner. I went up and asked them, what the hell was that all about? And because I had no idea, you know, and within 10 minutes of talking to them, I realized that I just didn't know. And it seemed to me that with a deception that terrible, that it's something that it would be the right thing to do to try and sort out.
And what websites or CDs, DVDs have you watched, or what got you convinced that this?
I would say, well, I don't know about me being convinced, but just from talking to the people from 911truth.org that were in town for that weekend. But I would say the top videos for me would be, number one is Barry Zwicker's The Great Conspiracy, his book Towers of Deception, certain books.
He's a gentleman from Canada, is
That's
that
right,
correct?
yeah. And The Loose Change is good for the young guys. I think probably Zeitgeist is one of the most important ones. 9/11 Blogger has a website, whatreallyhappened.com, truthnews.us, the Alex Jones.
Alex Jones
Yeah.
radio show.
I wish Alex Jones would do a little more towards trying to do something more than like make a living off of this. But, you know, who knows? He's a busy guy.
I was kind of disappointed to hear he wasn't going to be here today.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Wait. Okay, I'm talking to Gary from Chicago. He's going to give us a little idea of how he got involved in the 9/11 Truth Movement. And go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I officially got involved about June 06 when they had a 9/11 convention in Chicago. Alex Jones and quite a few filmmakers showed up there, and we had a crowd of about 700. And prior to that, I was just doing little bits and pieces on my own freelancing. But things started to coalesce when a local guy started an organization called Lone Lantern out of Chicago. There were about 26 of us, and now there's about 185 plus some people show up on their own freelancing. And
So you've been involved for how many years now?
that's 3 years.
About 3 years?
Plus change. But I knew there was stuff going on before, and that
And you're a veteran? You're a vet?
yeah, I'm a veteran, and because experience along that way, I was able to.
Can I get one of the flowers?
I was able to put a lot of pieces together in that I could see what military ops are all about. You get into service and sometimes you just find out a whole bunch of stuff. And that I knew that the planes should have been intercepted. I used to work with radar, I used to work with explosives and a bunch of other stuff, so I had a well-rounded background to know some of this stuff. And to tell an explosion when it happens. I've even seen buildings down. We just happen to have some done in our area. So a lot of pieces of the puzzle were out there already that I had connections with. And the BS about not being able to find the planes because of transponders stuff, that was all out there just for general public to pick up on and say, yeah, well, they told us so. It's not so. They can pick up anything out there, especially with the super sophisticated radars today. They know where those planes were. And they did nothing about it. It takes maybe 15 minutes for an intercept.
What's this unique bill you have here? I want to get a close-up of that.
These are great. These are deception dollars, they call them. Here you have V from Vendetta styled in there. You got cartoon type information that explains the realities of life. Here you have the eagle, and then one cloud has armaments, and the other it has hypodermic needles because the government's involved with opium. You can tell that's going on because the opium trade is flourishing in Afghanistan now, and Marines are just walking through the fields of poppies, and they're not doing anything about it. So these are great. There's 7 million of these in circulation. There's people doing work, you know.
Wow.
This is like the 10th issue. I know that number because I contact the people and buy often from them. And also on here, there's like 9 different websites. You change them from time to time where you get a lot of information. Infowars.com, that's a great site. Then you have 9/11 blog around here. Well, what isn't on here is like BrassTrekTV.com. It's a subscription service. It's free, and you get a lot of movies sent directly to you. The latest was Meet Me at Mina, which is about the Clinton and Bush administrations being involved in the drug trade. Mina being a small town in western Arkansas, and that was Bill Clinton's district, and he let it happen. So that's some of the good sites. Let's see some of the others. It's hard to tell. You go to one and you can get about 100.
I know. You just go from one to the other.
Right. It's like swinging through the trees.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, they said nobody above them got out, right?
I'm sorry for your cousin.
Yeah.
It's just another excuse to escalate and become a part of the Russia conflict.
Yeah, what's the point of this little Simpsons thing? I don't really get it.
Oh, well, this is before it happened. And before your Investigate 9/11 t-shirt, they came out with that same symbolism, 911, the two towers.
That's all? What's the episode about?
It's about the Simpsons going to the World Trade Center. And this is 1997.
There's so much more in The Simpsons.
Why would a bus ticket cost $9? Ask yourself.
Yeah.
From Springfield.
The mainstream media is covering up the facts of 9/11. And, that the Carlisle Group, KBR, Callie Burton, Bowie, all of them, well, they all know. I don't have to tell them. It's these people, sir.
find more and more people are waking up every day.
I've seen that.
Deutsche Bank's not even supposed to be. Well,
Hey, you're an idiot.
which one of these buildings is the Deutsche Bank? Right back in the I think it
I tried to answer, there'd just be more questions. It's just questions after questions after questions. And I realized that the official story was a complete lie. Decided to go ahead and get out.
What advice would you give to people joining the military now?
If they're joining the military, get a technical job. Don't be an MP. Don't be a grunt. Get an education. Get out as quickly as you can.
Fells a building exactly symmetrically straight down in less than 7 seconds. It's never happened in history, but it's no big deal. It's a normal occurrence. So even though your eyes will tell you the penthouse drops first, the building 7 kinks in on itself, much like the casinos in Las Vegas that we've seen when they're demolished. The building crimps, and then the outer perimeter columns are blown out after the roof line is blown. And then they tell you that's fire when you can visibly see windows busting out, the detonators, puffs of smoke coming out of the windows, and you can freeze it 2 seconds into the collapse of building 7, and you'll see the huge difference. When the building hasn't collapsed totally intact, roof line collapses, building has already been felled by explosives. So, I mean, what can account for that? And they're telling you it's fire, and then you go look at any video from any angle, and it's a clear controlled demolition. But they tell you in the media and in the History Channel or whatever, I have the articles right here.
grandparents. The articles right here.
Right here. And New York, your local New York newspaper telling you right here. Fire destroys Building 7. It's a new syndrome. You know, if your building is owned by Larry Silverstein, it collapses straight down into symmetrical fashion. But if you have a surrounding building, nothing happens to it. What about World Financial Centers number 3 and 4? Those 2 big buildings with the dome and the pyramid on top of it. Those buildings suffered tremendous damage. All the surrounding buildings had the spear embedded in them like spears. The beams from the 2 towers were jettisoned into them like arrows, like spears penetrating them. What happened to the Millennium Hilton? What happened to the Millennium Hilton? It was just flush with the North Tower. Right across the street from the North Tower. It did not collapse. And so Building 7, which is the farthest away from the 2 towers, which one is, even if you, on an overhead view, if you do a debris field of how far the towers actually, affected the buildings around them, you will see that Building 7 still suffered negligible damage. And then they changed their explanation again. They said, well, it was the antenna from the North Tower that cut a huge gash through the Building 7, which is so far away that that would be impossible. And then visual evidence also confirms that this is impossible, because as the North Tower comes down, the antenna drops first, indicating that the central structure, the inside of the building, has been blown out, and then the rest of the towers outside, perimeter columns, are blown out. But so how could the antenna cut sideways when the building fell straight down? In order for that to be true, the building would have had to fall this way to cut a gash across the streets in Building 7. But the building north...
This is a church. I don't know the name of it, but apparently some things are going on here.
precious skies.
Every single day, they are our greatest asset. We're with you, man.
Mountains,
This is building 7 that was